in Birmingham have been talking to us about how we could potentially end the bin strikes if we were to win control excuse me, of Birmingham Council, and indeed Unite themselves may well next month disassociate formally from the Labour Party. Something is happening. There is a disconnect between this Labour Party in Westminster, led by Sir Keir, and the communities like Barnsley out round the country that have put their faith in them for decade after decade. Somehow, a group of human rights lawyers from North London who seem to care more about vague concepts of international law than the well-being of British communities is part of that disconnect. But another major part of that disconnect, and I saw this yesterday up in the northeast, once thriving towns like South Shields, and everything's gone. The fishing industry's gone. Manufacturing's gone. Shipbuilding, well, there's a bit left, but frankly, not very, very much. And the same goes all over. And I think, well, we could blame the Conservatives for beginning this. It was Theresa May, of course, who wrote, net zero into law. It was Boris who decided we become the Saudi Arabia of wind, regardless of the consequences. But the truth is, the cult of net zero has hit these old Labour manufacturing areas and communities very, very hard indeed. And yet, rather than learning the lessons which you thought Labour might have done, no, Mr Miliband wants to take this even further. And I find it astonishing because if we've learned anything from Iran, we've learned that firstly, we don't have a Royal Navy. It's almost unbelievable. 3 weeks and 1 day. 3 weeks and 1 day to send a single Royal Naval vessel to defend British sovereign territory in Cyprus, and now it's broken down. 14 years of our services being hollowed out. Another fundamental disconnect with patriotic towns like Barnsley and what is happening in government. The thought that 242 of our former Special Forces soldiers are now facing potential prosecution for acting under orders, doing things of a national interest, and mostly fighting terrorism, and yet face potential charges going back over 50 years, whilst the IRA and everybody else are absolved of responsibility. This is the most unpatriotic Prime Minister we've ever had in this country, heading the most unpatriotic British government we've ever had in this country, and they're even worse than the Conservatives in the last 5 years, and they weren't very good either. But the other thing we should have learned from Iran, as we face potential shortages of diesel, of jet fuel, and perhaps even natural gas, the other big lesson we should have learned is we have more than enough natural gas and oil, both onshore and offshore. And we shouldn't just be drilling for oil and gas. We should be refining all of those products in this country. We should make sure that energy shortages should be something that can never even be contemplated. We could actually become quite easily a major exporter of natural gas, liquefied and shipped elsewhere in the world. And we would have much, much cheaper prices for domestic consumers and for British industry. And that is why I lay the blame at both the last two governments for the deindustrialisation of the Midlands, the North, parts of Scotland, parts of Wales, as we have the highest industrial energy prices in the world. And Labour too. I mentioned the unions a moment ago. But Labour too don't feel and look like a party that supports Labour. Labour means work. But increasingly, Labour appear to be a party that supports welfare. And yes, of course, we support welfare for those in society who can't look after themselves, but an increasing feeling amongst people who go to work, who probably work longer hours than their parents or grandparents did, who pay more tax than anyone's paid since the war, that frankly they're working hard to subsidise the lifestyles of others that live in their streets who choose not to work as an option. So for all of those reasons, Labour is collapsing in these parts of the country. And Reform has very much become the party of alarm clock Britain. From council workers to the self-employed. It's people who get up in the morning and go to work, or people who have worked and are now retired, that form the base of our vote. Now, Labour in the North have had its warnings before. In 2014, UKIP won the European elections and did especially well in Yorkshire and the North East. And then the Brexit vote happened, which was literally like a hammer blow to a Labour Party in these parts of the country who totally believed in Remain and who in government are doing their best, bit by bit, to edge us towards it. And then in 2019, when Theresa May made an absolute Horlicks of the whole thing, millions of people voted for the Brexit Party and then voted for Boris Johnson in the 2019 December general election. So the warnings have been there for Labour in their own heartlands, but none of those warnings have been heeded. And now, I have to say, the situation is very, very different. In the North East, the North West, Yorkshire, the Midlands, South Wales, parts of lowland Scotland, you are now seeing huge numbers of Labour voters not just voting differently for one election, but making a fundamental sea change choice of where their political allegiance lies, and it's lying increasingly with Reform. This is for real. What is going on here could be viewed by analysts in years to come as the dress rehearsal for the next general election. Now, it's not that, of course. We're voting for local councils and local services, but it is a very important step, the most important step between now and the next general election. Folks, what Reform is about to do in the old Labour heartlands, let me promise you, this time it's for real, and the Labour Party know it, because all they can do is lie. Put out leaflets to say if Reform win a government, you'll pay 50 grand for a hip replacement. Reform will abolish the NHS. We've never proposed any of these things. What we've said is we want the NHS to deliver better value for money, and we'll open our minds to find any mechanism that deliver it. And if it's not lying, it's just outright abuse that gets hurled in our direction. We are digging far deeper into the red wall vote, far deeper than Boris Johnson and the Conservatives ever got in 2019. Yep, I repeat the point. If we vote Starmer, if we vote Reform, sorry, not going to vote Starmer, are we? All right, I don't read off an autocue, you know. I mean, I'm going to make the odd mistake, it's allowed. I'll try again, shall I? If we vote Reform, we will get Starmer out because they'll ditch him by the end of May. What better incentive could there be in these Labour areas to go out on the 7th of May and vote for it? And it's not just happening here in England. It's happening in Brexit voting Wales. Again, a massive shock. How possibly could Wales vote Brexit when they've won every single election since World War I, yet they did. And now, not just because of national government, but because for over a quarter of a century, under devolved powers, Labour has been run in Wales, with the worst NHS outcomes in the country, the worst education in the country, and 20-mile-an-hour speed limits wherever you go. I was last week I walked through the streets in Merthyr Tydfil. Merthyr Tydfil, a constituency that was represented for 15 years by Keir Hardie, the founder of the modern Labour Party. And these South Wales valleys that have produced Nye Bevan, Michael Foot, Neil Kinnock, many of the giants of the Labour movement over the last 100 years. I can tell you that walking through what would have been solid Labour Merthyr Tydfil and doing it at random, unannounced, just walking up the street, meeting people, popping into shops, seeing businesses, might have fitted a pub in too, perhaps at some point on the way. And I can tell you that I got a better reception there on the streets than I've ever had at any point in 35 years of political campaigning. It's happening in Wales too, and we're vying against Plaid for who becomes the biggest party in Wales on May the 7th, with Labour trailing massively behind. And in Scotland, where it's always said to have been impossible, no party led by Farage could ever make progress north of the border. Well, we're vying with Labour for who comes second in the Scottish Parliament elections, and the SNP vote as a percentage is likely to be the lowest it's been for at least 20 years. And if you look at the numbers, as I said earlier, more Labour voters since 24 have come to Reform than have gone to the Greens. But similarly, in some of the inner cities, the Greens are going to do very, very well and hurt Labour further. I am disappointed that after the lessons of Gorton and Denton, when an independent group of election observers reported so-called family voting going on in 68% of polling stations. What does family voting mean? It means the man taking the woman into the privacy of the polling booth, making sure she votes the right way, photographing that vote, and then reporting it back to the person that told you to do it. And this, I'm afraid, rife in the Pakistani Kashmiri community in some of these cities. Despite all of that, Greater Manchester Police have decided there's nothing to see here. I'm tempted to draw a parallel with the police in Rotherham a decade ago, when the accusations of child abuse, child grooming, child rape, but no, nothing to see here. And the Electoral Commission, who send out their guidance for how polling stations, local authorities should conduct these elections, have made no mention of this practice, which has been illegal in Britain since the 1850s. Well, let me promise you, we will, as a party, fight and campaign to make sure that British elections are fought fairly and squarely as they were intended to be. And that's a campaign I'll fight as long as it takes for us to win. But the second big dimension to what is happening in this country is that the Conservative Party, their vote here in the north of England is literally falling off a cliff. It's literally disappearing. And it's disappearing in areas where in 2019, in December, they got significant numbers of votes and won seats in places that nobody even thought was possible. Their vote in Wales is now becoming irrelevant. They will finish up with hardly any seats in the Senate, and the same in Scotland, where they're headed for catastrophic losses in terms of numbers, of the number of members of the Scottish Parliament that they return. The proof of that is two by-elections. One in Caerphilly for the Senate, the other in Greater Manchester in Gorton and Denton. And in both of those recent big by-elections, the only recent big by-elections that have taken place in the country, they've scored 2% of the vote or less. And sure, they'll have their pockets of strength in South, the East, maybe bits of the West. But the Conservatives are, I believe, after the 7th of May, not going to be, done is one interpretation, not going to be a genuine national political party. And I would absolutely urge people here in Barnsley and elsewhere in the country, remember this: only reform has the strength, the power, the depth and the geographical spread to beat Labour, not just on the 7th of May, but as we head towards the next general election, whenever that may be. A Conservative vote in vast parts of our country today is now a wasted vote that will only aid and assist this ghastly Prime Minister and Labour government to stay in power. And so I stand before you proudly as leader of this party, as leader of this movement that I know is bringing so much hope to so many people. The commonest response I've had in the last 7 weeks in the streets is people coming up and saying, please save us. Yeah? Please save us. They can see the country isn't just in decline, it's actually spiralling downwards at a very, very rapid rate, both economically and socially. Shoplifting, flash mobs. It's difficult to believe some of the things that are going on in our country. A government that steadfastly refuses to stand up for British people and British interests. It's hope that we're bringing. It's hope and a belief that we're the people, as we stand up and fight for our principles that we believe in, of family, community and country. And it's a belief that we have the courage, that's the polite word to use, there's another one, but the courage to actually see through what we say, because we say what we mean. And I'm very proud of the 5,000 people that have put their names forward to stand in these elections across the United Kingdom. So interesting to look at their backgrounds. You know, we were looking at the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Parliament lists, and you see the other parties, they're nearly all political apparatchiks. But I'm proud to say that our lot come from the most diverse, biggest cross-section of society. Yep, I'm going to say we are now the only, literally the only genuine national party who can campaign from Land's End up to the Shetlands. We're competitive in all areas, whether they're Conservative areas, whether they're Labour areas, though we might struggle in just some parts of our inner cities, but we'll still be there and contest and compete. And we will stand on our record of the 10 majority councils we won last year, where a year in we've managed to save over £300 million of excessive expenditure, and our council tax rises have been lower than those county councils run by the other political parties. We now have a track record, 1 year in, that shows we're competent, we're capable, and we're able to do this. And as I say, I don't wish to sound overconfident, but I genuinely believe that on May the 7th, something remarkable is going to happen. And remarkable not as a one-off event, but remarkable in terms of the way that it reshapes British politics and changes British political history in a way that has never been seen in any of our lifetimes. Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. Now, I'm going to take some questions from the media, beginning with Lucy Ashton from BBC Sheffield.
Thank you. A lot of Reform UK's campaign is based around issues that Barnsley Council has no control over, such as fuel prices and banning the boats. One of the things that Doncaster Reform councillors do have control over is the reopening of the airport. And they seem to be wanting to put a block on financing that. So could I ask why Reform councillors in Doncaster seem to want to stop something that would boost the economy there?
No, they want to reopen the airport. Of course they do. But what they don't want is masses more debt being put onto a council that already is in deep financial trouble. And so what they need to do is to find a private sector solution, to find private money that's prepared to take risk, which means if it goes wrong, they lose their money or do their dough, or however you want to put it. So it's not about the airport itself. The principle, we absolutely agree. It's necessary. It's just the way that it's done and what future liability it may hold. And yes, we can't. I mean, Barnsley itself can't stop the boats. But Barnsley Council could say to central government, we are not accepting any more people being dumped in Barnsley in HMOs and have a big fight over it. Thank you. We'll move on to Fraser Maud from ITV News.
Your campaign here about get Starmer out.
Yes.
Clearly, I've been speaking to people on the streets, as you have. A lot of dissatisfaction with the Prime Minister. Given the Mandelson situation, the global situation, do you want to see Keir Starmer out? Or does it suit your purposes better for him to stay, at least until after this election?
I've always prided myself on answering questions directly. Fraser, you've got me there. I'm in big trouble. I suppose in many ways, if I was being deeply cynical, it would probably suit us for Keir Starmer to stay. He is so unpopular. And I think it's quite interesting, actually. I've had this in a few places in the north of England. People said, we preferred Corbyn. We didn't agree with him, but we knew that when Corbyn said something, he actually meant it. And Starmer's absolutely fatal electoral flaw is that nobody takes him as sincere. So cynically, it might suit us if he stays to the next election. Realistically, if I'm even half right about the predictions I've made from this lectern today, they will get rid of him. He'll be gone before the end of May. All right? Thank you very much. Gosh. Dear, oh dear. Almost went red. Katie Harris from The Express.
Thank you. Last week you said that you think Keir Starmer will be gone by summer. Today you've said May. Have the events of the last couple of days made you think that it'll be sooner? And are you concerned about Labour moving to the left under a new leader?
Yeah, look, I said by midsummer he'd be gone. That was my guess last week. Oh, I think his credibility's shot to pieces. I mean, the idea that not only does he put Mandelson in, and don't worry about the vetting, just rush it and hurry it, but that Matthew Doyle, who had to leave government, I mean, Mandelson's relationship with a paedophile was a problem, although I suspect the relationship with China and Russia was an even bigger security problem, frankly, if we get down to it. And then we get Matthew Doyle, another senior Labour figure, with a relationship with a paedophile, who suddenly is going to be rushed into a position somewhere, a diplomatic position somewhere. As someone said, it's a good job Jimmy Savile's not still about, Well, his judgment, his actions and his judgment are seriously in doubt. I think if Labour get obliterated in the Red Wall and in South Wales and in Scotland, then, he'll be gone by the end of May because the backbenchers will move against him. Do I worry the party will go further to the left? I think it's going there anyway. I think even under Keir Starmer, I think the relatively moderate changes they tried to make to the welfare bill got smashed down by the backbenchers. I suspect that Shabana Mahmood, who I think is sincere, actually. I think she's very genuine and sincere in what she wants to try to do, but I don't think there's a chance, and I'm sure that Starmer realises it's the right thing to do. I don't think there's a chance of any of that coming to pass. So I think even under Starmer's leadership, the centre of gravity of the parliamentary party is moving quite rapidly leftwards, which leaves the door very open to us. Sophie Church, Daily Mail.
Thank you. You mentioned the talks that Reform has been having with Unite in Birmingham. Have there been any further talks with any other unions, and have they been knocking at your door or the other way around?
No, I mean, look, Unite's over a very, very specific example, yeah? It's over the bin strikes that have gone on for a very, very long period of time, and, we were very happy to meet them. They would meet anybody that could give them a solution. But the important point is, we're not considered to be total pariahs anymore, and a lot of these unions realise that many of their members, who are part of Alarm Clock Britain that I've talked about before, many of their members are going to vote for us. They, certainly G&B and others, fully understand that if we carry on this headlong rush to net zero, there'll be no manufacturing left in Britain, which is the jobs of union members. And kind of in the past, it's been, if you're the Labour Party, you love the unions. If you're the Tories, you hate the unions. Well, what we're saying is, union members are working people. People that lead the unions may politically on some things be in a different place to us, but we will attempt at all times to have sensible, grown-up, cordial relations with the trade unions. They're there, they're a fact of life, they represent millions of people, and we're not going to turn our backs on that. Thank you. Peter Schnappvangers, Telegraph.
Thank you. You mentioned there that Starmer will be on by the end of May. Mm-hmm. What would be the most challenging replacement for you?
I don't know.
Is it Rayner?
Well, she likes a pint, I can tell you that. I don't know, is the honest truth to it. I don't know who the biggest challenge to us would be. I suppose, and I have said this before, whatever people think of Angela Rayner, there is something at least that's real about her. I just think her politics, and it goes back really to the Daily Express question, I think the real Angela Rayner's politics is just way, way out left. Way, way out left. And, one of the most distressing things is the number of very bright young people leaving the country. Very bright young people heading off to Australia, to America, really worried that if they try and get on and do well in this country, they'll be punished for doing so. We're losing a great deal of talent. And so, even if Rayner is more real, Ed, goodness me, he's not exactly laugh a minute, is he? I think the economic damage of a Rayner premiership would probably, in the long term, help us enormously. They're in big trouble. The bond markets are giving you all the signals. 10-year trading at 4.95% last week. The markets are the lending markets internationally are more distrustful of us than they are of Italy or France. And that's really saying something. And the OECD, they're not, these are not my mates, but the OECD and others making it very clear that the biggest financial losses over the situation in Iran and its surrounds will be the UK. We're going to suffer more than any other country because we haven't had sensible contingency planning. We haven't even considered self-sufficiency on energy or any of these things. So ultimately, the Labour Party after Starmer will go leftwards, and that might help them a little bit in combating the Greens in some of those central big city seats, but it will actually make our jobs ultimately easier. Thank you. We've got a couple more. Anna Gross, Financial Times. Running late. Blame the roads, they're overcrowded. Potholes. She's got a burst tyre, yeah. It's not even funny, is it? Jack Tolson, Barnsley Chronicle.
Thank you. On Barnsley, how confident are you that Reform will win in Barnsley, win big in May? And what is it that gives you that confidence?
Look, I'll be honest, I haven't been to Ladbrokes yet, but I know that we as a party have a very well-structured branch here with very keen candidates who are working the ground hard. And if there's one thing we can learn from the Lib Dems, it's where you have really good active ground campaigns. It makes a massive difference, whatever the national opinion polls say. So I just think the party in Barnsley is very, very well organised. And I also think that Barnsley, you know better than me, but I've been here many times over the years. I think Barnsley has a very strong sense of identity. Barnsley knows what it is, and maybe that family, community, country message that we push just seems to resonate. And if you look even at the last general election, you know, you'll find that in Barnsley, we were scoring just over 30% of the vote in a couple of the seats. Labour were about 48, 50. And if you even take the swing in national polls since then, it's realistic to say we're up 10. And it's more than realistic to say they're down 10. They're down a lot more than that. So even on the national swing, you can see why it would be somewhere we're going to compete. But I think the local effort is going to make the difference. Are we going to win in Barnsley? I will be a little bit more cautious, but say I think we've got every chance. Thank you very much indeed. And Finn Smith from the Sheffield Star.
You've spoken about deindustrialisation across the country, but plans recently have been to digitise and modernise a lot of the areas in South Yorkshire. Barnsley's been announced as a tech town quite recently with AI data centres planned. Would a Reform Council carry on those plans, or is it more looking at how you can restore more traditional manufacturing jobs?
We need both. The country needs both. You know, it's madness to close down your industries, to have products now produced in India or China. Those products then shipped back to the UK. We haven't cut carbon emissions. We've exported carbon emissions, and we'll still need traditional manufacturers. But equally, the 21st century is here. And it's an age of tech. And it's an age of AI. It's an age of digital assets. But the problem with that 21st century industry, it uses far more power even than the old-fashioned heavy manufacturing plants. And the truth of it is, government can talk about tech hubs. Government can talk about data centres. None of them can be competitive with the highest industrial energy prices in the world. None of them can be competitive, and I promise you, none of them will happen at scale. And it's where it's where net zero, our insane policies, are not just destroying traditional manufacturing, they're keeping us out of the race into the 21st century. And it's an absolute disaster at every single level. And I think, you know, people say to me, oh, well, you know, what will the big issues of the next general election be on? I tell you what, energy, self-reliance is going to be very much up there. Anna Gross is here from the Financial Times.
Thank you very much. While I was on my way here, turning up late, I was just reading a quite interesting analysis about council seats, and it was saying that for Reform to sort of sustain the momentum that it had last year, it would need to win around 2,000 council seats across England. I guess it would be helpful. Can you set out what would be an incredibly successful, good election night for Reform? What would you get in Wales, in Scotland, and in England?
Well, I think, you know, 2,000 seats is the classic. Set someone up to fail, you know. Choose something that is sort of reaching for the stars. Realistically, what would be good? 4 figures would be good. Winning in Wales would be very, very good. Coming second in Scotland would be remarkable, and winning councils like Barnsley. And that is where I've set my sights. I believe we're going to win councils in the north. I believe we're going to win councils in the Midlands. I believe there's going to be an extraordinary contest that goes on in Norfolk and Suffolk and Essex and Sussex and parts of Surrey and Hampshire. But I believe we can win several of those too. So you weren't here for my speech. You didn't miss much. You didn't miss much, it's all right. But, you know, as I said, I don't want to sound overconfident, but I do genuinely think we're at a moment of something changing on May the 7th that isn't just a short-term protest vote, it's a genuine shape shift in British politics. They are my realistic expectations. Thank you, everybody. So, we're going, after this, the media will go. All of you that are candidates, I'll do photographs with you. We'll have a chat about how it's going. and you can tell me what we're getting right, we're getting wrong. But let's take a 10 or 15-minute break. You can recharge your glasses, let these guys go. I'll be back here in 15 minutes. All right?